Hey, good Monday, everybody. I wanted to talk a little bit about the climate kids and see what your thoughts were on kids like Greta Thunberg. She was in New York City today at the United Nations for a big event that was regarding climate change and the efforts on a global scale to combat that in the coming years. And I think it's a great Rorschach test, really. What you think when you see her face is a great Rorschach test. Either when you watch this video, you're going to think, what a brave soul. Look at her, put her online with Mother Teresa and Princess Diana and people who have done great things for other people throughout history. She's a real saint. Or you're going to, and there is almost no in between here, you're going to think that she's brainwashed by her parents, that she is losing her childhood not because of the inaction of adults on climate change, but because of other people who are utilizing her as a prop in the field of climate alarmism and activism. And you're going to see that as a sad thing. There really is no in between. There really is no in between. And I want to know what you think when you see the climate kids out there, Greta among them. I'm not challenging at all that she's not serious about what she's saying. I do think that the promotion of the views of young kids like Greta Thunberg and in other cases like they do sometimes after a school shooting is sometimes used by activists to create an impenetrable shield whereby anything that is said is unassailable because the person saying it is a young child and you don't want to be the asshole bully who's taking them on and pulling apart whatever they're saying. Let's listen to her. Here she is at the United Nations today. She's very upset. And let's see what she's saying. Greta Thunberg on climate change.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe.
All right, there she is. That's Greta Thunberg. She was in front of the United Nations today. That's a speech that she gave. And now, what do you think? You know, a lot of the things she said, I completely think are factually incorrect. But again, it's a shield of a child being used in these circumstances that makes it very tough to combat the things, whether right or wrong, that they proclaim. And that's by design. It really, truly is by design. You don't think for a moment, do you, that Greta Thunberg just got on that boat herself and came over here? You don't think that she, as a child, just cracked all the books open and learned all these bullet points to say? Greta Thunberg is not a climate scientist. Greta Thunberg has very little understanding of weather, climate, or anything else, especially over time, and the larger geological impacts that the planet itself can have on those things completely escape her because she's a child who hasn't even had the time on Earth to properly research any of these things. It's of no fault of her own, yet here she is, right? So I have a very nuanced view on this. Again, tell me in the comments what you think when you see the climate kids like Greta. Let me tell you a little bit about what I think so you don't dismiss it out of hand. I think that climate change is real. I think the science is in on climate change. I think that humans are having an impact on the environment through the use of fossil fuels and other greenhouse gases, just as humans have had an impact in the past on our environments in many other ways. And whether it be the ozone or other battles that we've run into, we always have found a way to work together and to combat the problems that we were facing. In this case, the warnings are so dire, so alarmist, that they almost become laughable. And they're said that 8 months in the future, or 18 months, or she said 18 months, I believe, yesterday at some speech, or 8 years, or they're pulling data from the IPCC, which is the main board that the United Nations uses to investigate things like climate change. And their worst case, most dire scenarios are 100 years out, 100 years out, and only a multi-degree variable from where we are now. So the kids can breathe. We don't have to tell them that they're going to die, that people are dying by the thousands, that all these hurricanes and wildfires are directly caused by anthropogenic or human-caused climate change. You know why? Because there's 0 to nil to maybe a squidge of any research behind that to begin with. And we let this escape us, and we just go, there are 2 things to believe. Climate change is the grand disaster. Adults are at fault. We took away her childhood, and we've done her a wrong and a disservice. And we should, because make no mistake here, this is not about reducing solely the fossil fuels that we intake as humans. Oh, this is so much more than that. This is about, and you heard her line about the economy, continuing to continuing to grow forever. And what they're talking about, many people like Greta, is that capitalism is to blame for climate change, and that we must get away from capitalism and move on to socialism or Marxism or other forms of economic prosperity to save everybody, to save the kids, and so on and so forth. So these are big, major things. We're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, which, in my mind, in my estimation, and many people who are very familiar with this, like Bjorn Lomborg and others, could be better spent to save people in sub-Saharan Africa, to save people battling diseases all across the world, and not to reduce 3 to 5% of the total global emissions in fossil fuels over a short time when it really might not have much of an impact. So all these things are nuanced, they're complicated, and most people don't know a goddamn thing about them. But they see a kid crying, and they believe her, and they want her to go back to school, and they want to help her out. Greta has chosen not to go to school. She's made this her life. And I seriously doubt that that was done without the influence of people around her. You know, I know that she brought up a lot of this allegedly to her parents, but again, she's not an expert on climate science. She's an activist being surrounded by activists. So I don't question that she is 100% sincere in what she's saying. I don't question that there's a problem here. I question that the world is going to end in 18 months. I question any of the predictions brought on by the climate alarmists. And I'd rather choose to focus attention, resources, and any future investments in climate change on sensible solutions as a global society, including China, India, and Southeast Asia, as a global community, fixing these issues in a real way. But that's just me blathering on. What do you think about the climate kids? What are your thoughts on Greta? And how do you view all of this stuff? Do you think that she's fighting for a great cause and doing a fantastic thing? Do you think that she's been influenced by the people around her? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video.